Angel is brought to you by Salesforce Essentials. Jumpstart sales and support by leveraging the world's #1 CRM at a startup price point of just $25 a month per user. Go to salesforce.com/angel for an additional 50% off and a free onboarding call. And LinkedIn. You already know LinkedIn as the world's largest professional network. It's also a better way to find great talent. Go to linkedin.com/angel to get a $50 credit towards your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. And now part 2 of Jason's conversation with entrepreneur and investor Dave Morin. Enjoy.
When I did PTSD training, I did EMDR.
Yeah, EMDR is really,
which was super powerful for me because it puts you in a meditative state. You hold pads and you wear goggles.
Yep.
And I just went back to the World Trade
Another great
Center
tool.
and just put myself at the foot of it. And I talked to the therapist about what I was experiencing. And really after I think I did it 6 times. After the 4th or 5th times, I stopped crying. I started having my heart race. And I was like, okay, this was a tragedy. There's been many tragedies like this in human existence.
Yep.
And I can move forward, respect the people who lost their lives, cherish the life I have and my family has. And I was able to contextualize what happened. Where before that, I think I was just like, oh my God, the world is so evil. People can just murder thousands of innocent people.
Yep.
You know, and I can talk about it now. And my heart rate is not going crazy. I used to not be able to talk about it.
Totally.
Where if it happened on TV, I had to turn the TV off and get out of the room.
Yep.
Or else I would my heart would start racing.
Yep.
It's the first time I've ever shared this with people.
Yeah.
It was a super traumatic thing for me.
The same thing happens with founders, right?
Yeah.
You go through a near death. I mean,
of your
literally,
company.
right?
Yeah.
Like, who was it? Is it Mike Floodgate? You know, he like put together Maples put together this like near death experience thing meaning companies that went through a near death experience and how do they make it through it, right? I mean, every founder has these stories, right?
Yep.
You go through these like really intense, like you have to lay off, all of your staff, or you're like, these are just like as traumatic as an experience could possibly be.
Yeah.
And so how are you going to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different ways. And I guess all I would say is if you're really struggling and you can't find resources and you need help finding resources, send me a DM on Twitter, go on sunrise.bio, which is our website, just submit it.
Sunrise.bio. BIO is an extension?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you are funding, what are you funding with Sunrise?
Science.
Just science.
Yeah.
So
we
if people want to
completely in science. Like we're not trying to build startups or technology.
I almost invested in the psilocybin company that was doing the trials in Europe that...
Compass?
Yeah, Peter Thiel, I guess, backed it. I looked at it and I was like, this is one of these weird situations where I have LPs and I'm not sure I can do it with my LPs, but I should just wait a little bit. And
yeah, I mean, I think there'll be many waves. Like, we've been through this ecosystem stuff before, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. I mean, the biggest probably opportunity in this space right now is building clinics and building clinical either applications or physical clinics, or at the end of the day, we don't have enough therapists. Like we don't need another, match up with a therapist, a chat app. Like we need no more of those.
You need a place to go
where
you can do this under supervision and
we
not
also need
go
to
to
train,
Mexico to an untrodden place and take iboga or ayahuasca in a village where if something goes wrong, it's not science and it's not like they're no offense to those people. I'm sure those shamans are great intent, but people die sometimes because they have some reaction, and it should be done in a medical facility. The fact that we do not have medical facilities where people can do this properly is bonkers.
It's not just that. I mean, the whole mental health, we could go for an hour on this, but it's like, it's really bad. So we need like startups that are, building clinics. We need startups that are building.
Is there a country that is super okay with psychedelic research and therapies?
Portugal.
Portugal.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So in Portugal, if you were to do MDMA couples therapy or
I'm not sure on
therapy,
that, but all drugs are decriminalized in Portugal.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
what do we produce for Jackie? Ago. I need 2 first-class tickets for Dave and I. We'll be back in a week. Let's go. Let's talk.
I mean, on every metric, they've proven that it's the best. It's the best public policy.
Well, yeah, and if you look at just how we classify drugs, cannabis, much less destructive than alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Then if you look at amphetamines, opioids, heroin, crack and cocaine, if you were to relist them in terms of how dangerous they are, obviously opioids and the methamphetamine category would be just disastrous.
Number one, yeah.
Yeah, and behind that would be alcohol.
Yeah.
And then way down the list, after sugar,
totally
would be cannabis and psychedelics.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's so weird that we got to this place in the country where LSD and mushrooms and ketamine are put in the same class as opioids, and alcohol is a free ride.
It's a hard one because we weren't alive. The context is probably different. Like we could talk about this forever. Yeah. But we're here now, and I don't know. I'm heartened that there's a lot of progress, that these tools are.
There's MDMA trials right now.
Yeah.
Ketamine trials right now.
Ketamine's actually legal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can prescribe ketamine?
Yes. So and it's in fact, as of March 1st, the FDA has fully approved it for depression. So it wasn't fully approved. It was off-label, so doctors could prescribe it. But it was, doctors with their, do no harm can prescribe whatever they want. That's legal.
Right.
But Johnson & Johnson's subsidiary called Janssen got ketamine all the way through the FDA process for depression. So as of March 1st.
As a drip? As an IV drip?
No, they've released a new nasal spray. You can't take it home with you, but it's a better way to deliver it in clinic.
So in clinic, you go and you have it and you just sit there and mellow out and hopefully it cures it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's there. And then MDMA and psilocybin are in phase 3 with the FDA, both with breakthrough designation, which means that the FDA wants to see them move through as fast as possible.
Wow.
And if you get into phase 3, more often than not, you go back into the public market because phase 3 is about safety, not about efficacy. Phase 2 is about proving that it works for the indication.
Obviously, MDMA is going to work for people who are struggling in therapy, PTSD, everything. I mean, it's so obvious. Well, let's talk about investing.
Yep.
This has been a great discussion.
Thank you for taking time on that. I mean, I think it's important for founders.
It's the most important. Like, to do something as ambitious as start a company and then be overwhelmed by it and not have support.
Yeah.
It is madness that we, like you're saying, put millions of dollars and put somebody in the cockpit of a $100 million or $10 million or $5 million airplane.
Yeah.
And we haven't taught them how the eject seat works or how to fly it perfectly.
And no oxygen masks.
No oxygen. We're just that's
a really good analogy.
They're like, how high can it go? And it's like, we'll find out.
There's no dials. It's like, good
What's
luck with flying a helicopter, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
right?
It might work out, but 70% it doesn't. Yeah. It's like, imagine if 70% of helicopters pilots killed themselves and crashed.
Yeah.
You'd be like, maybe we should do some more training.
No question. Especially, I mean, we have so many people passionate about the Warriors and this, it's like, we need to treat founders just the same.
It's amazing. Yeah. You've got me thinking about what we could do that would be more regular in terms of checking in with people and just, efforts. And I have an episode with Jerry Colonna coming, who is a great coach.
Oh, I love Jerry.
Jerry's great.
Well, I knew him from one of Jerry's retreats last year.
Oh, did you?
One of the best experiences of my life.
Tell me, what was it like?
He's just mensch.
Yeah.
Is maybe the right word.
Super mensch.
But like Yoda.
Yeah.
Everyone says that, but
Yeah.
he's really gifted. And, when I started this project, there's no one that I get introduced to more than Jerry. Like, our joke is that if we aren't introduced to each other once a week, then something's wrong.
Like, who should know?
Yeah.
You should know
Jerry.
Dave. You should
every
know
week.
Jerry.
Yeah, every week.
I met Jerry when I was 24 years old in New York.
That's
and
awesome.
We're friends ever since.
He's just great, and we went through very similar stories, and I really respect him, and I just think he's really wonderful. So I was lucky that he invited me on one of his retreats. I highly recommend. Actually, that's maybe one last recommendation is
Jerry's Reboot Retreats.
Retreats are
and the book's coming out.
World
the book's
class.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Scaling sales is so hard. You know that, but it's so essential. You need to scale your sales process, your team, and of course your software. Salesforce is the world's #1 customer relationship management platform, also known as CRM. And now with Salesforce Essentials, you get easy, out-of-the-box tools and support at a startup price point, and that's critical. Here are the benefits. You're going to get set up instantly, and you can easily scale your sales team by customizing with clicks. You don't need to write any code. You will get simple integrations that connect and integrate all of your data under one roof. And you'll have full cycle customer support. So you can automatically connect multiple support channels. You'll be able to automate busy work and repetitive tasks so you're not wasting your time. And customers can help themselves, of course, with a self-service support site. Everything you need is on one screen, so you can track emails, calls, and meetings from your inbox. Get access to the world's #1 CRM at a cost fit for a startup. Go to salesforce.com/angel and you will get a 50% discount with an annual contract, and you'll get a free onboard training session. So go to salesforce.com/angel and get that 50% discount right now. All right, let's get into angel funding. I'm going to do my lightning round with you. What makes a great founder? What makes a great founder? Not a good founder, not an okay founder, but really the great ones that you've worked with. What do they share in common?
Usually great founder. Wow, that's an interesting question. What makes a great founder? They're all
what
so
characteristics?
Unique, but there's this
must be some threads.
There's this thing that when you sit down with certain founders, that there's like a sense of inevitability.
Yes.
It's like they're sort of like,
yes,
they're gonna do it whether you are with them or not.
Trains
like,
leaving the station.
They're looking like through you,
right?
Or like into you.
Like Travis and Garrett with Uber, or Zuck with Facebook.
Yeah.
It's like, this is happening. Or you with Path. They're just like, this is happening. You can be part of it or
it's
not.
It's like they're going to manifest it, and you can, and that's like, it's actually really tangible. Like sit down with anybody who's done this for a long time, and it's really tangible. Like, that's a real thing.
Inevitability. It's this inevitability that what they're saying they're going to do. It's like
you've come across a Jedi or something.
It is like a Jedi. Yeah.
It's like they have like force powers or something, and you're like, they're tapped into something. I mean, I think that's real. I think there's this other thing, which is an ability to think big, but it's not just big thinking. Like, anybody can sit around and just throw ideas out. There's this like ability to be expansive in terms of receiving feedback, having conversations with like an investor and saying, oh yeah, they listen, but then they like multiply what you're saying. Yes. And it's almost like they're unlocking markets in their mind that like weren't there before.
Yeah.
And that's like a real thing.
It is interesting when I have conversations with people, I talk about how when the great founders, I get into like a volley with them, a back and forth, like tennis or ping pong, where I'll ask a question and they build on it. They ask me a question. I have a follow-up. I have a thought. They can expand that thought. And you're like, wow, this person, you're in almost like a zone with them, a flow experience, because they're so deep into the product, the customer, the vision, the playing field. Like there's some construct out there that they're going to be putting a product into, some system, and they know ahead of time, I'm introducing this into the world. Here's how the world's going to respond. It's almost like you were saying before, where Zuck could see 4 moves ahead like a chess player. With Travis and Garrett, like especially with Travis, because Garrett's kind of quiet, but Travis is not. You could really tell he was like, okay, well, here's how we're going to do that. Here's how they're going to react. Here's how we're going to react to their reaction. And then here's how we're going to get them to react.
It's almost, one of my favorite quotes is this William Gibson quote, "The future is here, it's not evenly distributed yet."
Yeah.
These founders that are this genre that we're talking about.
Jedi,
it's almost like they come from the future. Right. And they're like, this is how the future is going to be. And it's not just this like pie in the sky, like, well, maybe it's like as if they are explaining to you a future that they already live in. And you're not in yet, and you should be, right? And you're like, oh, it's really interesting, right? And I think that's a huge deal. And I guess that also implies that there's generating ideas, but I think there's like a higher quality level of idea generation that some people are it's like being able to know the future, but know what's possible now, right? Like, this was a big lesson I learned from Steve Jobs, is that there's sort of like, here's all these things we can make in the future, right? But then there's like, here's the future that's possible now.
The near future.
Right? Like, we can take these materials and turn it into this phone and this interface. And if we do all of that, it will actually be good and consumers will understand it today. There's also like this other genre, which is like trying to do wild future stuff that's clearly not going to work. Right. And like that to me, there's a subtle difference there between the founders that are off in the future that's probably not going to work out. It's like almost
some
science.
Delusional future that like, we're going to be able to do this. And it's like, not really. No.
It's literally like, I remember when, like Travis and Graves, I think Graves was actually on the front end of the first Uber emails when they first finally started.
Yeah, he was going to be the CEO. People don't remember. And then
yeah,
Travis called me one day. It's like, this guy's going to be the CEO. Will you still invest? And I was like, who?
Yeah.
Ryan, who? I'm investing in you. And I almost didn't invest. And he's like, trust me, it's my guy. I was like, all right, fine. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to be the CEO. We talked about it. We changed our minds. That was all in the course of a 2-month period.
But if you look at those first emails, they're like, yo, download this app. And like, we only have a few cars, but try it out. Right. Yeah. And so they're literally like saying, here's the future. Yeah. Right. Like you can use it now.
Boom.
And that to me is like the mark of, I call it great product person, right? That like they are delivering the future now. Yeah. They're like literally giving you a future, which is here for you today. Like there's a big difference, I think, between that and what I call the bank shot. Like if we do this, then this happens.
If we hit
then
critical
the future
mass,
happens,
the data unlocks, we have a business model. If we hit critical mass, they never work.
They never work. And so I don't know. I think those are some of the things. And then you can get into other things like grit and determination and integrity. Like I always try to look for those things too. I also try to meet with people multiple times because I find this is a thing I do with hiring as well. Because if you want to talk to somebody a second time, I think that's a signal.
Right. If they don't want to, or you want to.
If you want to. If I want to continue talking to the person, it's like, that means everybody wants to continue talking to them.
There's
right.
something alluring or interesting or fascinating.
Yeah. And that's something that I think it's a nuance, but I think it applies to many things, not just this. It's like also good for hiring and all kinds of things.
You know what that I think correlates with is your ability to lead in the future. So if you and I want to talk to Travis again or Ryan or whoever it happens to be, there is a likelihood that other people will too, like you're saying, which means they will be able to recruit.
Yeah.
They will be able to have talent and customers and partners and other investors.
Exactly.
So it's not exactly likability, but it is sort of under charisma.
Yeah. It's kind of in that intangible.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of what you're trying to look for are these kinds of things like integrity. How do you figure that out in one meeting? Or this intangible like ability to recruit and gather influence, whether it's employees or whoever they're talking to. These are hard things to look at in one meeting. Yeah. And so what do you do to kind of figure those things out?
It takes time. What do you think when you meet with a founder and a couple of minutes into the meeting, like, this isn't for you? What are the things that are signaling that? I mean, obviously a lack of integrity or a lack of charisma or a lack of depth in terms of talking about the product would be the opposites of what you just said. I don't know if those are the correlates or something else. You tell me.
That's a hard one, because there's also this thing that happens when you're angel investing. You're also doing it for yourself in a lot of ways. Like I almost view it like what I like to do is being a producer in a way. Yeah. Like in the music business, there's people who like work with artists to help them make their music better, right? And so it's like you might not be into certain genres right now, right?
It's not for you.
I might have thought it was for me, but then I sit down with them and I'm just not going to be passionate about this. That's one thing. There's this other thing, which is the product thinking wasn't actually at the depth that it seemed. Although I tend to do this thing, which is that I try to go into a meeting thinking that I'm going to do it. Like I'm usually on offense. Like I try to almost never be on defense. Like I try to not take deal flow meetings. Like I try to develop ideas that I think are areas where I want to be. And then I'll find a founder or company that I think is interesting. And then I'll go to that company. And so by the time I'm sitting with the founder, I'm already like ready to do it. And so I'm getting convinced
you're interested in.
Yeah. I'm more trying to be convinced out of it than convinced into it, if that makes sense. I don't usually make that transparent, or sometimes I do, but
it's interesting.
It's like I'm usually trying to come to the person versus the other direction. Now that's not always the case. I come to Open Angel Forum, whatever. You know, you end up in a lot of situations where
you'll be a little promiscuous, try out some meetings, see what happens.
There's tons of that, and that's in that case. Then you're always looking for simple stuff. I think like product depth, business model depth. I mean, and that's something that I've only gotten good at business model stuff, I think, over time. Like that's like I was not good at that at all in the beginning.
Let's unpack both product and business model. I want to start with product. You're the product person. People like Zuck look to you to help with product.
Yeah.
Zuck has copied literally 3 or 4 of the core features of Path and put them into Facebook. He copied the emoji strip that you innovated with. He copied the close friends concept, and he copied the groups concept, more of a closed social network. How do you, as a very high level shooter like Steph Curry of product, how do you make a decision to invest when almost by design you're going to be so much better at product than everybody you meet with? Do you accept this person doesn't have the craftsmanship I have, but that's okay, they're going to get there? How do you determine craftsmanship when you're using that product? What are the signals for you? I mean, Path was the most...
That's a really cool question.
Yeah. Path was the most beautiful product ever.
That's a cool question.
Yeah. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, what's coming up as you're asking the question is there's sort of there's probably more than 2, but here's kind of 2 ways, I guess, that I think about it. I'm always looking for quality in terms of the product quality. And this can be manifest in a bunch of different ways. Like you can look at something and just see the difference. Like for example, HipCamp, which is one of my favorite investments, just launched their mobile app on Wednesday. You download that app and you look at the interface and it's like, it just screams quality. Like it's just unbelievably
This is like Airbnb for
quality.
Campsites.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I literally clicked on it.
It's unbelievable.
It's gorgeous.
They're just amazing at product, right? And
gorgeous. The design.
So the aesthetic looks good. The function, I mean, there's sort of aesthetic, right? That's like what it looks like. And, Steve always used to say you can't put lipstick on a pig, right? A lot of people try to do this. And I can almost always instantly tell if it looks good. And then as soon as you start interacting with it, 2 things. One are the user like the UX, like the pathways through the app or the way that features are organized. Is it like confusing at all? Or are the pathways sort of weird, or their animations? Is it slow? So there's the UX question. And then the other one is the software. Like one of the things that I always try to look at is the feeling that the software has. Like, did they choose to use some kind of, there's all these frameworks you can use to like try to not have to do the hard work to write Objective-C code, right? Like, and so people do these things where they use these like, whatever, I don't know, there's a ton of these frameworks, right? And you can almost always tell, right? The animations are slow, the fonts are like off slightly, like
clunky.
You can really start to tell pretty quickly. And so I'm always looking for like speed and like, does the software feel solid? It's kind of the difference, like when you go to a hotel and like the walls are like, like a sheetrock versus like wood, and you can tell the difference between quality and not quality. And so I'm always looking for that.
Finish, right?
Yeah. So I'm always looking for that craftsmanship because it implies that the team cares, right? So that's one side of your question. Like, how do you assess it, and do you do it? So there's, like they've got good quality. Like then it's like, well, maybe I can add some value just through kind of jamming with the founder, and it's fun, right? Because you're sort of collaborating, and it's more of a peer product relationship, which that can be super fun. It's kind of like it's just like collaborating on music or something. Like that can be super fun, but it's, you also have to get along with the person, and you
can only do so much as an investor, right? Like it's not your company.
Totally.
So like the most impact you can have is what, 10%? 20%, 5%.
It depends, And in this genre, I think that's why it's fun, because it's like you can jam on an idea, and every once in a while they get in there, and that's super cool. But it's not a huge amount of overhead. Like the burden of product is not on you.
Right.
The other category I would say that's much harder for me is when you make the choice to help somebody who doesn't have the product. You know, it's like that's actually the missing piece for the company.
Yes.
And you know that, they know that, they're actually coming to you to help with that.
Right.
And that can feel really good for your ego.
But hard to solve.
It's hard to solve. I've like made every mistake in the book on this one. You know, over-promising like my ability to influence the product and my, you know, at the end of the day, you're right. Like, even if you're on the board, like you're only there every once in a while. You're not there every day.
Yep.
Oh yes, you can do a product meeting with the product team. And, you know, the reality is if you're not in the office at like a lot, it's very hard to impact product. On occasion, you know, I have some collaborations with founders where, and not very many, you know, and I've gotten better at this over time, like in terms of setting expectations. But, you know, like right now I probably have 3 or so, maybe 5, but really 3 that are texting me or calling me or video chatting with me every single day. And I'm like, I'm actually doing product on the product with them, and they don't have the skill set or they're learning. And for that, I would say that the thing I'm looking for are learning machines.
Yeah. How quickly can they assimilate this knowledge? How quickly can they become Jedi?
Exactly. And that's actually maybe should go back in the previous bucket, which is I'm always looking for learning machines, people that are voracious readers or they just love learning. And so you can actually be in a learning relationship with them and you can actually teach them to be a great product person. Like that to me is super fun, but it's pretty rare, like to actually have it work.
Because if you go back to the Jedi metaphor, like you can't fight the lightsaber battle with them.
No.
They're going to fight Darth Vader or Darth Maul or whoever it is. You can't hold the lightsaber with them. They've got to fight it. So you can teach them how to use a lightsaber. You can teach them how to use the Force. But at the end of the day, when they're in their battle, they have to put their skills.
Yes.
So you're optimizing for how quickly can they learn the skills and the wisdom, not can you jump in the battle and fight with them? Because every time the 2 Jedis fight another one, it never works. Look at Qui-Gon Jinn and, you know, Count Dooku. It's like everybody winds up losing a limb. Hiring is always hard, and it's getting really hard today because we've got unemployment at historic lows. Also, many people just throw a job posting out there. They put it on their job board or some random message board or dump it in your Slack room. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. But what is going to work is to go ahead and use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where 610 million members visit, and they do that to make connections, learn and grow as professionals. And sometimes they're looking to discover new job opportunities, or sometimes they're passive job seekers. And that is the secret. Not everybody's going to a job board every day looking for jobs, but LinkedIn will present opportunities to those hundreds of millions of LinkedIn users. And here's how easy it is. You just simply go to LinkedIn, and it's really easy because you say where you're looking for the person, you put in your job, you can then look for what experiences you want them to have. How many years of marketing, you set a budget, boom, it's up and running, and you will find somebody quickly. How do I know this? Because we found 2 of our 15 team members on LinkedIn very recently. Sir Charles, our new director, and our marketing manager, Morin. You can create these job listings quickly and easily, and to get $50 off right now, a 50, okay? 50 for your first job posting. Go to linkedin.com/angel, ANGEL. You know how to spell angel. That's linkedin.com/angel, and you will get $50 off your first job posting. Terms and conditions apply, of course. Now, let's get back to this amazing podcast.
Marc Andreessen at one point, I think a few years ago, said something like this, like, I try to invest in people who don't need me, right? Like, it's like, that's my criteria.
Sure.
And I think there's some validity to that, right? Like you have to, or either teach them to the point where they don't need you, right? Or make the conscious decision,
right? I mean, because like you're saying, I think I made this mistake as well. I would look at them and think, I could do this.
Yeah.
I can help them do this.
Yeah.
I know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah.
And that's not the best thesis. Like, I know what needs to be done here and I could do it is not the thesis.
Your analogy is perfect, right? They're not going to fight the battle. You're not going to be holding the lightsaber, right? And I think like there's the whole teach someone to fish, you know, and like there's a lot of that going on in venture and investing right now. It's like, we're going to have all these resources and we're going to hold the lightsaber for you.
Yeah, no.
I've always really taken almost the Zen path on this, which is like, I really just want to be a good teacher. And if they want to learn product, then I'll try. I've made tons of mistakes. To all the founders, I made the mistake. I'm sorry. Like, it's taken me a long time to learn like what I can engage with and really help and whatnot. And I don't think I'm done, but when it works, it's really fun, and you get to
not everybody's
make some
a
great
Jedi.
stuff.
Most people are stormtroopers. Most people are not Jedi. Not everybody's a samurai. Not everybody's a Jedi. Like, we're not optimizing here to make everybody the founder of the company.
Yeah.
It is an extreme pursuit, just like not everybody's going to be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Let's talk about business model. You brought that up.
Yep.
What have you learned about business models? Path didn't have a business model initially. You were going for scale. You were getting there. You sold. Unfortunately, because if it existed today, oh my Lord.
Don't even get me started.
Oh my Lord, why didn't we hold out?
Yeah.
I reached out to the company. I never told this, but I reached out to the company that bought it, and I made them a lowball offer, and I was going to bring it to you and gift it back to you.
That's nice of you.
That's very kind of you. If I give you $250, will you take it? And they were like,
How about no? Yeah.
And they were like, no. And I was like, God, that would be so juicy if I bought it for $250 and then just was like, here, Dave,
that's
cool. Your present.
That's cool, dude. I will say I was trying to, around that time too, I was trying to get it back, and there was didn't seem like any price was going to do it.
Yeah, that's a bummer. You never know. Maybe if they're listening, maybe they want to own 10% of the reboot.
Yeah.
Business model.
Yep.
What have you learned as a product person, an artist, a Jedi master? What have you now added to your skill set, and what have you learned about business model, architecture, and when to turn it on at a startup?
This is a real art that I did not have, I think, the appreciation for, particularly as we scaled up Slow Ventures, as the numbers get bigger in terms of the size you're investing and the diligence you're doing. You really do have to start thinking about business models and how long is this one going to last, or is it a bank shot, right? And there's all these questions. And the other thing going on is that the internet just is changing so much all of the time. Sure, you've seen this in your portfolio too. One of the sadder things that I've seen happen in the last few years was we've had so many changes to the algorithms that run various parts of the internet, whether it's Google's search rankings or Facebook's feed rankings,
YouTube,
all of it, and
Twitter. And
you can have a thing happen where you have a whole category of apps that wake up and one day 40% of their 40% of their traffic's gone.
Poof.
And if their business model was advertising, suddenly, these advertising businesses have, they sell an ad, they take the insertion order, then they run the ad 6 months later. They need a accounts receivable, some debt to like finance that time period.
Yeah.
If suddenly your traffic's 40% gone,
it's a whipsaw.
Boom, like all of a sudden, like you're not only are you not able to service the ads, but you're buried under debt. It's just like this unbelievably hard thing. And then, oh, by the way, like you didn't realize this, and you didn't realize how hard this is going to be. And so that's the reality of that business model, right? Similarly, you've got this other thing where, direct to consumer businesses are like really popular right now. And that's super great, right? Like I invested in Casper and Allbirds and, a lot of the first wave of the DTC stuff. And, these things can be really good. You figure out your CAC LTV and then you scale it up, but that only gets to like a certain scale. And then suddenly it's not working anymore.
No more lift. Yeah.
And like, what do you do? Right.
Yeah,
and it's super fun for like 3 years. And, and then the whole ecosystem starts investing in this business model. And then everyone's, DTC. And it's so great. And there's funds that are about this now.
Yeah.
And then suddenly that market changes and like and so I think that there's, these are hard, and there's kind of brass tacks business models that are much more easy to understand. It's
subscription.
It's like subscriptions and you're building
What's the best business model surprise you've had? Like, I can tell you mine while you think about yours, but it was Calm. When they came to us, they were selling the app for $10, I think. One time.
And
the cognitive dissonance around making a purchase and the cognitive overhead of, I'm going to give $10 and get something. And then they went to $10 a month subscription and all that friction went away and it just started growing like a weed because if you think about a consumer, it's like, well, if I'm subscribing for $10, I can cancel at any time. So if I don't like it after 2 or 3 months, I'm out.
Totally.
And buying it one time for 10, they're just
I wish Apple made that case easier, by the way.
They hide it a little bit in the interface.
Yeah.
They're getting better about it.
They are, yeah. And
I found it easier this time when I went into my
Matt Fisher, the guy who runs the App Store at Apple, is world class. I mean, he's really trying to do a good job with this.
They just have to, every month when you get your email of subscriptions, there should be a specific link in it that says pause your subscription, partial refund for the year, cancel.
Totally.
And it should be underneath it. Instead, you have to click log in, and it never works.
Totally.
And you can't, I don't know. They're just starting to explain, you're renewing on this date, and then you can cancel renewal. But what about partial?
Totally.
It should just say, you're 80% through your subscription. Click here to get a refund of this amount.
Totally.
And then it would just relieve everybody from this pain. And I have a rule now. I call it Jason's rule, because I came up with a creative name for it, which is you can tell the quality of a product based on how hard it is to unsubscribe or return it.
Totally.
If it's great quality,
totally,
they're like, yep, totally. Refund, you got a refund.
Apple all day.
Apple, they're just like, yeah, you don't like it? Give it to us.
Cool.
We'll give you, no problem.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Don't worry about it. We're doing well.
Yep.
Or you had a great restaurant. They're like, oh, I don't like this hamburger. Like, let's try another one.
And all those products are NPS 80 plus.
Exactly.
And so.
And then you go to some
Comcast.
Wall Street Journal or Comcast, and they're like, so tell me why you're unsubscribing. And it's like, I don't want to tell you why I'm unsubscribing from Equinox or this or that. I just get me out of here. And they're like, no, we're trying to throw up roadblocks.
Totally.
To see if you give up unsubscribing. I'm
totally.
Like, really?
Totally.
That's your business model, is you putting all your creativity, all of your cycles go into how arduous can you make unsubscribing as opposed to how delightful can you make the product.
Totally.
It's bonkers.
Totally.
And the world isn't going for it anymore. It's too much competition to take that approach.
Totally.
Stratechery sends, Ben Thompson from the Stratechery email sends your invoice every month with an unsubscribe button.
Totally.
It's baller.
Totally.
He doesn't have to send that.
He's world class. Yeah.
It's world class. He's like, listen, I am so confident. And when I get that email, I'm like, I appreciate that. Totally. I'm going to stay subscribed for another month. I'm getting value. I read 1 out of every 5 of your emails, and they're brilliant. Good enough for me.
Totally.
Worth my $10 every month.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
you have a business model one that just blew the doors off it, and you went, wow, that's so cool.
Well, HipCamp I've mentioned before.
Yeah. What is their model? It's just Airbnb, a percentage of the transaction, or do they own and operate?
Well, so this is what I think is interesting. When I first sat down with Alyssa, and she's just the most wonderful human, she was really focused on either owning or operating, or being a front end for all of the National Forest Service, know, the campsites we're all used to.
Yeah.
And we had this meeting at a diner in Morin County. She grew up there. I live out there.
Yeah.
And
did you get the grilled cheese? Let's get the grilled cheese when you're at that diner.
And we were talking about it, and I kept talking about this notion that I would love it if there was a distributed national park, like a decentralized national park that I could just camp on land anywhere in the world.
Right.
And ironically, I was on the board of Eventbrite at the time, and there's this company, Active.com, that had the contract with the government, which is illegal, by the way. It's you're not supposed to be able to have an exclusive contract to book the front end for these things. And anyway, at any rate, they were making it impossible for HipCamp to actually be involved in that part of the transaction at all. And this went on for a year. And finally, Alyssa calls me and she says, I'm going to do it. We're going to switch to private land.
Wow.
And who knows if it's going to work. And literally, I think it was within 3 months of making the switch, it just took off exponential. And this really interesting thing started happening, which is the landowners were telling each other about it, because they all only have 2 options for what to do with their land: either put a subdivision on it or drill for oil. Neither of which anyone who owns large blocks of land wants to do. And so suddenly they had this way to monetize their land, which wasn't there before. And so it started spreading in local newspapers and these conferences where people go to talk about land monetization. And then now, as time's gone on, I mean, it's just been the landowner side of the market's been the thing that's just really taking off, because
do they put the sites on the land, or do they have the landowner operate them?
The landowner operates them. It's like the Airbnb or Eventbrite model, and that's what's so cool is that landowners are actually making really good money. They're actually growing their businesses. If you look at all their cohorts and things. It's super
put
great.
a yurt up for whatever, 5-10 grand, and then rent it out for 100 a night, 200 a night.
And they're reinvesting now in the land and doing cool stuff like outdoor kitchens and outdoor showers. And so the land's like pristine. It's not this like badly like used campsite that like everybody's
a million people
been to. It's like brand new land, and now the landowner's excited. And one of these other cool things that's happening there is that city people and country people are meeting each other.
Oh, it's so special.
If you talk to Alyssa, she'll tell you like enormous numbers of stories of these two sides of the market.
Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie, get me Alyssa from HipCamp on the podcast,
yeah,
please.
You'll
this
love
week
her.
at Startups.
Anyway, that's a good one.
All right. I'm going to ask a final question. What verticals in 2019 and going forward into 2020 do you find the most fascinating and that have the most opportunity to build multi-billion-dollar businesses? Which categories do you think are going to be the next ones to fall? We saw transportation and housing with Airbnb and Uber and Lyft, food delivery with this last cohort. What do you think the next couple of categories that have been resistant to change that might change are? I have a couple, but I'll wait for yours first.
I mean, I do think that there are going to be two internets.
Really?
I think there are already two internets. We just don't think of it that way. If you actually look at the bits flowing through the internet, it's like something like half of them are Netflix.
Yeah.
And so I think there already is a subscription internet and a free internet. We just don't think of it that way because the subscription one's dominated by this one huge player and it's video and et cetera. I mean, if you were to index all of the words we've used on this podcast today, I think the word subscription shows up quite a bit.
Yes.
And so I think there's clearly a sort of massive amount of that coming down the pipe, whether it's simple stuff like subscription podcasts and Substack newsletters and the very most basic stuff. But I mean, you also see this happening with like the App Store, like there's tons more. I mean, games is like all this, right? And so I don't know, I just think there's going to be a lot more stuff where people make the choice. Either they download it for free and then they make this choice to be a customer of the product, even in the social category, even in these categories where we just, media, et cetera, where we didn't think it was possible before. I think there's been a shift in behavior and there's almost like a hangover going on. So anyway, I think there's a lot more opportunity there than I think people are actually.
I agree 100%.
Looking at. That's kind of a, I guess, horizontal answer to the question.
It's a business model that consumers are embracing, technology is enabling, and there's something that people didn't realize that's also enabling it, which is millennials never spent $150 a month on cable, which freed up $1,800 a year in a la carte spending. So instead of spending $150 and getting ESPN and History Channel, whether I want it or not, I'm now chopping it up going, you know what? I'll take com.com and I'll take my favorite video game and I'll also take, my yoga online classes and my Class Pass or whatever. So people are just like rolling their own cable subscription in the App Store or directly.
This kind of matches with another thing, which is somewhat unrelated to your question, but I've been thinking about a lot, which is that, where we're at as a society right now is that we've shifted from like a small number of deep relationships to a much larger number of loose relationships, right? Like, and that's what's going on in kind of social land. I think this is going on in interests. I think of it as the interest graph or the media, just like things I'm interested in. I think people are shifting from, it used to be you had like 3 interests that were
like
really
a passion
deep.
Or two.
And it was actually hard to get the media. I think of growing up in Montana and I was a ski racer. There was no video of that. There wasn't YouTube. So if you had like a lot of VHS tapes that you kind of got from all the catalogs, you were invested in these interests, right?
Yeah.
I think now you've got a portfolio of interests. It's like you've got a portfolio of people and a portfolio of interests in your life. And so if you were building a media company in the past, you used to be like, this is our person. His name's Jason, and he likes these 5 things.
Yeah, he skis and he likes golf.
And you're going to walk around the office, and that's who we're talking to. That's not the game anymore.
No.
Like, people have a portfolio on all fronts.
So interesting you say this, because I'm seeing this over and over again. I think we have a bounty of availability of ways to go deep. And the past year I took up tennis, electric guitar, and I started playing backgammon.
Yeah.
And I just started watching videos online on YouTube to learn backgammon, learn how to play tennis, and learn how to play. And I got Musician to play guitar.
Oh, Musician's awesome.
It's awesome. And I was like, $100, or I can get a guitar teacher for $150 an hour.
It's so much
I'll just
better.
get $100 for Musician. I'll just start playing.
It's amazing.
And then tennis, I was like, how do you hit the ball?
Yeah.
And then I was like, tennis ball machines. And I bought like $1,000 tennis ball machine, and I'm now playing tennis.
How cool is that? Yeah.
And you know what? Next year it'll be 3 different things.
Totally.
So it's a very interesting insight, which is the hurdle to become passionate is low.
Yeah.
It used to be the hurdle to become passionate was I ordered all those videos where I made VHS copies. If I happened to run into somebody,
if somebody put
trading zines, going to the library.
And it was expensive for those people to make the videos, you know? So it's just like, I think this is a huge thing, and it's changing.
The democratization of passion.
Yeah. And relationships, right? Like, it's like you're seeing this play out with relationships in business and life. I mean, the way we work, the way we marry, like all these things.
People dating. I mean, just think about it. These young kids are hooking up, then deciding if they want to have a relationship. Now, I'm not making any moral judgment about that, but the velocity of which they can try on relationships or, you know, people is higher than us. They can just go into Tinder and swipe, whatever city they're in, and meet 3 people.
Everybody's in multiplayer mode at all times.
And then you think about music festivals. We used to go to one show and we would listen to the, you know, U2, we'd get 3 albums and then, or Bruce and the E Street Band, and then we would go to shows or The Dead or Fish, and you would deepen it. Now people are like, I'm going to Coachella. I'm going to go see this, you know,
I just
Dead
went to
Mouse.
I Heart Country last weekend.
And how many musicians did you see?
It was 4 hours, 10.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were probably passionate about 2. Casually interested in 3.
Exactly.
And then you expose yourself to 5.
Yeah. The way I kind of think about it is that, like, the real world is now like newsfeed.
Oh my Lord. And you created the newsfeed. Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Think about it. I mean, it's true.
It is.
Right?
You get like it all surfaces.
Yeah.
The music is the equivalent of the newsfeed. It's just all surfaces.
I mean, all of it, like whether it's in any of these interests, right?
Movies. Think about like the comic books. They're just like, here's 25 Marvel films.
What's Netflix?
Here's 30. Here's 30 Star Wars films. Mandalorian series, this, that, the other thing.
So that's one thing. I guess the second thing, which is more...
No, that's 2 things.
Depth.
The democratization of your passions and interests.
I didn't really think of that as a category where...
No, it's a category because now that I'm thinking about it, like you can start to unravel like musician is an interest, or people are now taking up programming. I was talking to a friend of mine.
Masterclass, like, you know,
Masterclass. My wife's got a subscription to that.
I was like so into watching how Timberland makes music. Like, it's unbelievable to watch.
And you don't make music.
No, I mean I do, but like not like that. Like, you know, it's just like, wow, like that's pretty cool.
All right. So you have the democratization of interest passions, and then you have subscriptions as a horizontal layer. What else?
The only other one that I was going to say is I really believe that this meditation apps being the #1 app or the biggest category last year is just the beginning. Of
mindfulness, of health?
I think of it as like self-care tech or something.
Self-care, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what we're going to call it, but it's like there's these tools that help you expand your potential, or understand your potential, or heal yourself, or, you know, all of these meditation apps are 101. You know, this stuff goes to 701, right? Like these wisdom streams are 10,000 years old, right? And there are amazing things that you can do with your body, with your mind. And, you know, we've talked a lot about athletes on this. Like, all you have to do is look to sport to know that, like, there are amazing things you can do if you set your mind to it, right? And so
I'm going to put it under self-actualization tech.
Yeah, I think there's like a real thing here.
Yeah.
And I think that our phones, and this is actually my optimistic case, I guess, for
going
tech.
Back to the anxiety,
to the
stress, depression,
The optimistic case is that the mobile phone, we've always talked about it as a remote control for your life. These buttons like do something magic in the world for you, right? Like bring you a car or food or
music,
your friends, or music or whatever.
TV show.
And all of the use cases that kind of are the remote control on our home screen right now are kind of the easy ones, right? Like it's like the ones that were obvious, like we got them done. They're all like, they're great, like awesome. But the personal computer's vision was always this notion of a bicycle for your mind, right? This tool that makes you a superhuman. Right. And so I really think that the next phase of everything going on the phone, or who knows if there's going to be another platform, I don't see it right now. Yeah. Like whatever it is, like whatever the next computer is, like I think that we're going to actually start to be getting some tools that make you healthier, make you have, be able to learn things. Like musician is like this crazy superpower. Like I played guitar in high school. I was in a band. I was reasonably good at it. I get musician, and 3 months in, I'm like playing guitar, like I would say at least 2x better than I was in high school. Right. And that's pretty amazing.
For $100.
Yeah. Like that's amazing. And so, okay, imagine even better meditation apps, even better health apps. I have this ring.
The Aura?
The Aura.
Yeah, they launched at our conference, and I never invested. I'm an idiot.
This was the only personal investment I made last year.
Aura.
And the reason why is that it's the only wearable that I've ever tried that's changed my behavior.
Really?
Yeah, because I go to bed now at I mean, not always, but it's made me actually think about when I'm going to bed.
It vibrates when you're supposed to go to bed and tells
you?
No,
it just kind of sends you a push notification like, hey, it'd be good if you went to bed like 10:30 to 11:30 tonight.
Perfect.
But more importantly, because it tracks HRV, heart rate variability overnight, which is it's basically the best metric to know whether your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system have received enough rest to recover. So when you wake up in the morning and you're making the decision, am I going to go work out hard this morning or I'm going to take a rest? It tells you, it basically like, you should rest today. And Amazing. What it's taught me is that I used to wake up sometimes feeling like, like not a good day to work out. And some days it's like, no, you should work out.
Wow.
And other days it says, no, you should take a rest. And so I've learned there's a subtle difference between those two, that actually on some of those days, working out makes you feel better. And so this ring has like given me that, just it's a little bit of extra data, but it's actually changing the way I make decisions every day. And this is like right now, the Apple Watch is like one of the most sophisticated pieces of technology that's ever sat on a body.
Yeah.
And it's like only 3 years in. I can't even imagine what this is going to look like in 5 years. Right?
We have those continuous glucose monitors and now
I was going to say the only other wearable that's really impacted me is a CGM, but you can't get it without a doctor. So.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got my doctor to give me one for 3 months. Dramatically changed back to my whole point on sugar.
Yeah.
You really change your sugar consumption after you've had one of these.
Because you see your glucose spiking.
Yeah. And you see it spiking. You're basically realize that, like I realized that my sugar runs low all the time. My wife used to give me a hard time because I'd drink a San Pellegrino at night or whatever. Turns out I actually need it. But I need to manage it differently. You don't want to
like the lemonada or the orangeada?
Yeah, the orangeada.
Oh.
So good.
So delish.
Right?
So delish.
Yeah. But it's better if you eat sugar with fruit or something so you can manage it into the right zone all day than like spiking it, crashing.
Does the orangeada spike it? It's too much sugar too fast. So eating an orange, okay. Yeah. Orangeada, not okay.
Raspberries, whatever, and
eat that with some sparkling water, you're okay.
Exactly. And more smoothed out through the day. And then your energy levels are really good.
Got it. So you eat like 3 or 4 of these raspberries every hour. It's better than pounding a juice.
But here we are talking about this, like that would be a great tool to give everyone in the country, I think. And someday that's going to happen. I've heard of a lot of startups working on this.
Yeah. When they have continuous glucose, I think obesity will turn.
Yeah.
I think that's the turning point because people just don't understand
totally
the impact of sugar on their system.
Rightly so, and
how would you?
Yeah. There is this thing, and I really think that this is maybe what I'm trying to get at with this category here is that these are subtle things, right? Like, should I work out today or not? Did I recover enough? Am I eating sugar in the wrong way? It's not get sugar out of your life. It's manage the way, like eat it differently.
How much,
right?
The intensity of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are things which technology, I think, can really super help with. And I would love to see remote control buttons on my phone for a lot of these different things.
Higher order apps.
Exactly.
They're much, because I have the fasting
tools.
app. I don't know if you have Kevin Rose's Zero, and I've been using Zero.
I love Zero and Oak. I'm an investor in Oak.
That's great. I'm not an investor in either. I would be in Zero. I wouldn't invest in Oak because I'm an investor in Calm. That would be bad form. But I've been using the Zero meditation app, the Zero fasting app. I lost 15 pounds this year on it.
And fasting is this amazing thing. Actually, that's another one of these tools, which I should have said earlier, that for some people it really works. And it can be this amazing practice. Like I sort of think of health and mental health as this stack. I call it the playlist of practices. Like, what are the practices you have in your life that are making you maximally healthy and sort of reach your potential? And it's different for everyone. One of the great, I think, farces in the world is that there's something that works, for everyone. You see all this guru stuff happen where somebody figures out some set of things that works for them, and then they make it a program, and then do this diet or watch my podcast. We're all unique combinations of DNA, you know, and so we're all different. What works for me is not going to work for you. I can tell you my stories, but you have to find your playlist of things, and so
the fasting that's definitely one for me. I struggled with weight forever, and I realized my problem was in the moment I had to order food. I enjoy food so much, and I grew up, going back to our childhoods, so fearful of not having food that when I had the bounty in my life to order whatever I wanted, I did. And I would never send food back on a plate because that would seem to me to be criminal to do that. And I would just make a bad decision every time.
Totally.
Then I have no problem skipping 5 meals a week.
Totally.
If you skip 5 of 25 meals a week, you have 20% less calories.
Totally.
And I lost 15 pounds in under 6 months.
And by the way, this is how your body is designed. Like, we literally used to kind of meander around, and sometimes we'd get the food and
sometimes not.
And so your body is actually designed to function this way. This like modern way that we eat all the time is actually not how you're supposed to do it.
Non-stop grazing is not. We were feast or famine.
Totally.
We would gorge and then fast.
Totally.
We'd kill some animal or find a fruit tree, and we would just eat until we passed out.
And we'd move, and like, my version of this was yoga for me has like fundamentally changed my life. Like awesome. I do it every day, and it then went and changed all kinds of other things. So my body only wants to eat certain things, and, it's just like this amazing thing. And so you have to find your things that work, your playlist. All right,
now I do the recap. Working backwards. The democratization of interests and passions, self-care/self-actualization technology, amazing. Subscriptions, obvious and amazing. HipCamp and Substack. Did you invest in Substack yet?
No.
All right, I'm going to call these guys. I think you and I need to make a little quick investment here, because whoever the Substack people are, I think they need us on the team. They pitched me, but I didn't Aura. I made a mistake on that. I got to try to fix that.
You should still invest in it.
I know. No, this is like, I do this podcast and I literally, the podcast is my therapy.
I've got another thing like Aura that I'm working on right now that I'll tell you.
Don't tell anybody.
All right.
We'll do it off air.
All right, cool.
And
it's in the same genre.
If you're suffering.
It's related to sleep. Yeah.
Sleep is so important. Yeah. If you're suffering, get help. And sunrise.bio. If you want to donate, can people donate?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to make a little donation after this.
We'll give it to the best science in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Charles, make a note. Ask Ashley to donate $1,000 to sunrise. What is it? Bio.
Yeah.
Let's make an email right now. Sunrise.bio, please. Thank you.
That's so kind of you.
Now, you know what? You came on the podcast. I appreciate you taking literally 100 minutes to share your collective knowledge, and give my best to Britt.
I will.
And congratulations on all your success. You can follow Dave Morin on Twitter, but I don't know if he uses it all that often. What a career. Thanks for sharing everything.
Thanks for having me.
Now we have to make this a 2-part episode, because once again, you and I always talk for too long, and it's a double episode. We'll see you all next time on Angel. Bye-bye.